The grand hall of the celestial palace was filled with voices from many worlds. Tall pillars made of shining crystal reached toward a ceiling that glowed like a living sky. Representatives from dozens of alien species gathered together, wearing robes, armor, or strange clothing made from materials unknown to human science. Some spoke in quiet tones while others watched carefully, waiting for the arrival of the ruler of this powerful empire. Among the crowd stood a human man who looked completely ordinary. He kept his hands behind his back and stayed near the edge of the hall, far from the center where important figures gathered. His clothing was simple and without decoration. No one would guess that he had crossed half the galaxy to reach this place. No one would suspect that he carried memories that many would consider impossible. That was exactly how he preferred it. He had learned long ago that being invisible was safer than being famous. The man observed everything without drawing attention to himself. He noted the guards at each entrance, the way they moved, the hidden weapons beneath ceremonial armor. He watched how the delegates formed groups based on alliances, and how some avoided eye contact with others. Every detail mattered. Years of experience had taught him that danger often arrived quietly. Today was supposed to be simple: attend the summit, deliver a message, leave before anyone important noticed him. But as he stood there, a strange feeling settled in his chest. He felt watched, not by the guards or the delegates, by someone else. A deep chime echoed through the hall, cutting through the noise. Conversations stopped immediately. Everyone turned toward the great doors at the far end. They opened slowly. The queen entered. She walked with calm confidence, her long silver cloak moving like flowing light behind her. Her crown shimmered with faint energy, and her eyes were sharp and observant. She was known across many systems as a ruler who combined strength with intelligence, and even powerful warriors lowered their gaze in her presence. The human man lowered his eyes slightly, avoiding direct attention. He had studied her from a distance. He respected her reputation. That was exactly why he hoped she would not notice him. She moved toward the throne at the center of the hall, greeting delegates with small gestures. Her attention shifted constantly, scanning faces, reading expressions. Then, suddenly, she stopped walking, her gaze fixed on the human. For a moment, everything felt still.
He felt the weight of her attention like a physical force.
He remained calm, refusing to react. Perhaps she was simply observing the room. But then she smiled. It was not the formal smile she gave to others. It was softer, almost surprised. "I wondered how long you would hide," she said, her voice clear enough for everyone to hear. Whispers spread across the hall. The human slowly lifted his head. Their eyes met. Recognition flashed in hers. He inclined his head respectfully. "Your Majesty, I believe you are mistaken." A few delegates laughed quietly, thinking this was some kind of royal joke. But the queen shook her head. "No," she said gently. "I remember you?" The room fell silent. She stepped forward, ignoring the confusion of her guards. "You disappeared after the war," she continued. "Many thought you lost." The human felt old memories rising inside him, memories he had buried carefully. "I am only a messenger," he replied calmly. "You always preferred to say that?" she said. The murmurs grew louder. Delegates looked at him with curiosity now. Who was this human that the queen recognized so easily? The human realized that staying hidden was no longer possible. The queen raised her hand, and silence returned immediately. "The summit will begin shortly," she announced, "but first I must speak privately with our guest." Gasps filled the room. Private meetings with the queen were rare and important. For her to request one publicly meant that this human was far more significant than anyone realized. "Woo!" He stepped forward slowly. As he approached, he noticed that her expression was not hostile. Instead, there was relief. and something else he could not fully understand. "You changed your appearance," she said, quietly.
"It helps," he answered. She nodded slightly.
"Yes, but not enough." They moved together toward a private chamber. The doors closed behind them, blocking out the noise of the hall. Silence filled the room. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the queen exhaled softly.
"I searched for you," she said.
"That was unnecessary," he replied.
"Ooh."
"It did not feel that way," she said gently. "You saved my people."
"You think I would forget?" He looked away. "That was a long time ago. For you, perhaps. For me, it was the day everything changed." She stepped closer, studying him carefully.
"You disappeared without saying goodbye. I had reasons. I believe that," she said.
"But I never stopped wondering." Her voice carried a quiet honesty that surprised him. Finally, he spoke again.
"I did not come here for old memories," he said. "I came because there is danger." Her expression changed instantly. "What kind of danger?" He hesitated before answering. "There is a force moving through the outer systems," he said quietly.
"Worlds are going silent. Entire fleets vanish without trace."
She listened carefully. "And you believe it will come here?" "Yes." Her eyes grew serious. "Then you came to warn us." "I came because this is the only place strong enough to stop it." She studied him for a long moment.
"And you knew I would recognize you," she said. He did not answer.
Outside the chamber, the council waited, unaware that the quiet human they ignored might be the one person capable of saving them. The queen realized that fate had brought him back into her life, and that their meeting would change the future of the galaxy. The doors of the private chamber sealed with a soft hiss. Outside, the summit hall returned to a nervous murmur, but inside, the silence felt deep and heavy, like the pause before a storm. The queen stood a few steps away from the human, watching him as if she expected him to fade into the air again. The chamber was elegant but simple compared to the grand hall. Smooth walls with faint lights running through them like veins, a low table, 2 chairs, and a wide window that showed the palace gardens below. Floating lanterns drifted outside, slow and peaceful, as if the galaxy had no problems at all. The human did not sit. He stayed near the door, keeping his posture respectful, but ready. The queen noticed. "You still stand like a soldier," she said quietly. He gave a small, careful nod. "Old habits." Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in focus. "And you still choose the corner of every room?" "It gives the best view," he answered. A faint smile touched her face.
"You used to say that?" The words made the air between them warmer for a moment, then colder again as the weight of the past returned. She walked toward the window and looked down at the gardens.
"You said you came with a warning," she said, her voice steady. "Tell me everything."
He hesitated, not because he did not trust her, but because he knew what truth could do.
Once said out loud, it could not be taken back. It could pull him out of the shadows and place him in the center of the galaxy again. The queen turned slightly. "If you hold back, more worlds will go silent."
"All right."
With 2 fingers, he tapped a small device on his wrist. A dim projection appeared above the surface, a map of nearby star systems. A few bright points flickered. Several others were dim, like dying embers. "These are trade routes," he said. "These are the patrol lines the council uses. And these," he pointed at a cluster of stars with dark rings around them, "these are the silent zones." The queen leaned forward, studying it.
"I have heard rumors,"
she said. "Ships not returning. Stations not answering. Rumors." become patterns, he replied.
This is not normal piracy. Pirates want profit.
These zones have no distress calls, no debris fields, just absence. Her expression tightened. How do you know it is one force? Because the timing is too precise, he said. He touched the map again and thin lines appeared, paths showing the spread. It moves like a wave. It avoids strong fleets. It hits the edges first, and when it takes a place, it does not leave witnesses. The Queen's eyes stayed on the map, but her voice softened. You speak like you have seen it. The Queen's head lifted sharply. Where? He paused. His jaw tightened, and for the first time, a crack appeared in his calm expression. On Kestrel Station, he said. 3 months ago. The Queen's eyes widened slightly.
Kestrel Station is an independent port. It was, he said.
He tapped again, and a small image appeared, grainy, unstable, clearly taken from a security feed. It showed a corridor with metal walls, people running, lights flickering. Then the image distorted. The figures froze mid-step, like time itself had stopped. The footage ended in static. The Queen stared.
That looks like an equipment failure. He shook his head. That looks like an equipment failure.
It happens the same way every time. Systems fail first, then people become still. The Queen's voice dropped. Still? Mond harmed. Harmed? Not bleeding, not broken. Just gone from the world, as if a hand erased them. Their bodies remain, but there is no response, no signal, no mind. The Queen's fingers curled slightly against the table. That is impossible. That is what everyone says right before it reaches them.
Silence held for a long moment. The Queen straightened.
If what you say is true, then we must warn the Council now. He shook his head again. If you announce it in the hall, half the delegates will panic. The other half will accuse you of fear tactics, and the ones who benefit from chaos will start moving their pieces. Her gaze sharpened. You assume my council is weak. I assume politics is always hungry, he replied, calm but firm. The Queen did not argue. She had ruled long enough to know he was right.
Then what do you suggest? She asked. He pointed to the dark rings again.
We need proof that cannot be dismissed. And we need time. Time to prepare defenses without alerting every spy in the room.
The Queen's expression turned thoughtful. You came to me first because you trust me.
She watched him carefully, and her voice softened again. Or because you know I will act. Both. The Queen leaned back and studied him as if she were reading an old book she had once memorized. You have always been like this, she said.
You appear when the galaxy is about to break, then you vanish when it is safe. His eyes flickered. It is safer that way. For you, she replied. Not for those who need you. The words landed quietly, but heavily. He did not answer, but his silence confirmed she had touched something real.
The Queen took a slow breath. Tell me about Kestrel Station, she said. How did you survive? He looked down at the projection. For a moment, his voice grew distant, as if he was no longer in the chamber.
I was there to meet a traitor, he said. A person who collects old war records, black market files, things that most governments would rather forget.
You still dig into the past.
Because the past repeats, he replied, and because the thing coming now is not new. Whoa, that made her go still.
Not new? He tapped the device again. The projection shifted.
The map faded, replaced by a symbol. An old mark, scratched into metal, simple and sharp. It looked like a circle split by a line, with 3 small points above it. The Queen's breath caught. She knew that symbol. Her voice became very quiet. That was the mark on the ruins. He nodded. Yes. Years ago, during the last Great War, the Queen's people had found strange ruins on a dead moon. The ruins had no clear purpose, no readable language, only that same mark repeated again and again. She had kept it secret. Only a few trusted minds had studied it. The human had been one of them.
You told me the ruins were older than our recorded history, she said, eyes fixed on the symbol.
Older than most species, he answered, and the technology was not like ours.
It was not built for comfort or art. It was built like a tool.
A tool for what?
She whispered. He swallowed once. Whoa. For control. The Queen's eyes tightened. Explain.
He tapped again, and the grainy footage returned, but this time he slowed it down.
The moment the corridor froze, faint lines appeared, barely visible, like a thin web overlaying reality. This, he said, pointing at the lines, is a field. It interacts with neural signals and energy systems. It does not destroy. It pauses. The Queen stared at it, her mind working quickly.
Like freezing a song mid-note.
Yes, he said, and once something is paused, it can be moved, stored, studied, or erased.
So someone is using ancient control technology on living worlds.
That is what it looks like, he said. The Queen stepped away from the table and began to pace slowly. The calm ruler in her now showed cracks of real fear. Fear not for herself, but for her empire and everyone under her protection. How many have vanished, she asked. He hesitated. We do not know.
That is the worst part. There are no survivors to count.
Her pacing stopped. And you believe it will reach my border soon? It already has, he said quietly. She turned sharply. What? He pointed to the map again and highlighted a small star at the edge of her empire.
This outpost stopped answering yesterday.
The Queen's face hardened. Her voice became steel.
Yesterday, as in February 9th, 2026? He nodded once. Yes. Using a clear date made the warning feel more real, less like a rumor.
The Queen's fingers tightened around the edge of her cloak. Then we must act tonight, she said.
That is why I came, he replied.
The Queen stared at him for a long moment, then asked the question she had held back since the moment she recognized him. Why did you leave? She said softly. He did not respond at once. The Queen's voice stayed calm but carried pain. After the war ended, you vanished. You did not even send a message. Do you know what that did to me? His eyes flickered with something like regret, but he kept his face controlled.
It was necessary. For the galaxy, she asked, or for you? He breathed in slowly. For both.
Tell me the truth. He looked at her then, really looked, and something in his expression shifted. The mask he wore for politics and survival loosened slightly.
The war did not end cleanly, he said. We won battles.
We made treaties, but the enemies we fought, they were only a layer. Under them was something else, something older. Her gaze stayed sharp.
The ruins.
He nodded.
During the last months, I found records, old transmissions, hidden research. The ruins were not random.
They were part of a network. The Queen's voice was almost a whisper. A network across the galaxy. Yes, he said. And someone was trying to wake it. The Queen's eyes widened slightly. And you ran. I followed the trail, he corrected. I did not run. I went where no one else could. She studied him, and now she understood a new layer of his choice. If he had stayed, he would have been pulled into politics, celebrations, titles, he would have been trapped. And if he stopped, the trail would go cold.
You sacrificed your life, she said quietly.
He gave a small, bitter smile. I did not have a life like other people. You could have, she said. The words hung between them like a fragile thread. He did not cut it, but he did not hold it either. Instead, he returned to what mattered. If the outpost is silent, your enemies will use it. They will claim you are weak. They will demand investigations, votes, delays. The Queen's face turned hard again, the ruler returning.
Then we do not give them time. She moved to a panel on the wall and activated a private communication channel.
A holographic crest appeared, and moments later, a tall alien officer's image formed, one of her most trusted guards. The Queen spoke clearly. Commander Alice, bring my security council to the war room. Quietly. No announcements, no public signals. Use encrypted channels only. The commander's eyes flickered with surprise.
Yes, Your Majesty, immediately.
The hologram vanished. The Queen turned back to the human.
You will come with me, she said. He nodded.
I expected that.
She studied him again.
You expected I would recognize you too. You are observant, and you remember. Her expression softened for a second. They left the chamber together through a private corridor. The hallway was quiet, guarded by elite soldiers who bowed as the Queen passed. The human walked half a step behind her, his eyes always moving, always measuring exits, cameras, angles. He did not look afraid, but he looked ready. As they moved, the Queen spoke again, keeping her voice low. There is something else, she said. He glanced at her. What? The Council will demand to know why I trust you, she said.
Some will accuse you of being a threat. He almost laughed but stopped himself. They would be partially right.
You are not the threat I fear. He nodded. Good.
They reached a door with a symbol of authority.
2 guards opened it, and they stepped into a circular room filled with tables, screens, and floating maps. This was the war room, hidden deep inside the palace, protected from spying systems. Several officers were already arriving. They bowed to the Queen, then glanced at the human with confusion and suspicion. The Queen raised a hand. No questions yet, she said.
We have little time.
She turned to the human. Show them what you showed me. He stepped forward and activated his projection again.
The dark rings appeared. The frozen corridor footage played. The ancient symbol hovered in the air like a ghost. The officers murmured, some in disbelief, some in fear. One older strategist stepped forward. This could be forged, he said. The human met his eyes calmly. It could, he agreed.
But the silent zones are not forged. Send a drone.
Test it. You will find the same result. The strategist hesitated. The Queen spoke. We will send a drone within the hour, she said. But we will not wait for confirmation to begin preparation. Another officer, a young tactical mind, spoke quickly. If a field can pause systems, then our fleets could be disabled before they fire. The human nodded. Yes.
That is why standard defenses will fail.
The room grew tense. The Queen's voice became decisive. Then we need a defense that is not standard. He looked at the map, then at the Queen, then back to the officers. There is one advantage, he said. The field is ancient, but it is not perfect. It relies on predictable systems. Most alien tech shares common standards. Even the Empire's best ships do. An officer frowned. Are you saying we should change every system in our fleet? In days? Another officer scoffed. Impossible. The human's expression stayed calm. Not impossible, he said. Just difficult. The Queen stepped closer, her eyes bright with sudden understanding. Human technology, she said softly. The human nodded once. Yes, the officers looked confused. The Queen explained, her voice firm. Human systems are different. They are not built on the same framework as ours. Humans solve problems in strange ways. They do not always choose efficiency. They choose resilience. The human's gaze met hers, and for a moment there was quiet respect between them. An officer asked, cautious, "But humans are a minor species in our records. Their fleets are small." The human's voice was steady. Small fleets can still change a war if they bring the right tools.
We will not win by matching the enemy's strength, she said. We will win by refusing to be predictable. Then she turned to the human again.
If we bet on human resilience, she said, then I need to know one thing. He waited. She asked, very softly, almost only for him, "Are you still on our side?" He looked at her, and his answer was simple and clear. I never left her side, he said. I only moved where the shadow was deepest. Then she nodded. Once, like a ruler making a final choice. Then we begin, she said. Outside, the summit continued, full of speeches and smiles. Inside the war room, a different truth was forming. One that would decide whether the galaxy would remain alive and free or become silent, frozen, and forgotten. And the human, once hidden, stood in the center of the Queen's storm again. The war room grew quiet after the Queen's decision. Every officer understood that the situation had moved beyond simple politics. Screens around the circular chamber displayed maps, fleet movements, and energy readings. Small lights blinked constantly, each representing a ship, a station, or a border patrol. For years, those lights had meant stability. Now, several dark spaces on the map reminded everyone that stability was fragile. The human stood slightly apart from the officers, observing rather than commanding. He watched how the Queen handled her council, how she listened first before speaking, how she allowed debate but never lost control of the room. She had grown stronger since the last time he had seen her. Commander Illis stepped forward. The reconnaissance drone is ready, she reported. Stealth configuration. It will reach the silent outpost within 20 minutes. The Queen nodded. Launch it. A technician pressed a control, and one of the screens shifted to show a small, sleek vessel leaving a hidden docking bay beneath the palace. The drone moved quickly into open space, vanishing into darkness as its stealth systems activated. Everyone watched silently. The human crossed his arms. Once it arrives, watch for system lag, he said. The field distorts signals before it activates fully. One of the officers glanced at him skeptically. You speak with certainty? I have seen it before, he replied simply. The Queen studied his expression carefully. She noticed that he did not show fear, only focus. That calm steadiness began to influence the others, easing some of their tension. Minutes passed slowly. A young analyst spoke up, long-range sensors detecting minor anomalies along the drone's path. The human moved closer. Show me! Tiny waves appeared in space, almost invisible unless someone knew where to look. Energy ripples, the analyst said. But they don't match any known weapon or engine signature. They are not weapons, the human said quietly. They are like echoes, the field preparing.
Commander Illis frowned. Preparing for what? He did not answer immediately.
Then the drone reached the silent outpost. The image appeared. A small station floating near a pale star, lights dim but still active. No ships moved around it. No communication signals responded.
Attempting contact, the technician said. Static filled the speakers.
Again. Nothing. Nothing. The Queen's expression hardened. Move closer. The drone obeyed, drifting toward the station. Inside the war room, everyone leaned forward. External structure appears intact, the analyst reported.
No signs of battle damage. That is consistent, the human said.
The drone entered through an open docking bay. Lights flickered inside. The camera showed a corridor. Empty, quiet, eerily still. Then the image froze for half a second. The technician frowned.
Signal delay. The human stepped closer. Not delay.
Interference. The image returned. The drone moved deeper into the station. Then they saw them. Figures stood in the hallway. Alien crew members, frozen mid-motion. One reached toward a console. Another turned as if reacting to something behind them. Their eyes were open, but there was no movement. A heavy silence filled the war room. Commander Ellis spoke softly.
Are they alive?
Their bodies are. Their minds are not present. The Queen felt a cold weight settle in her chest. The drone approached one of the figures. Sensors scanned it.
Life signs minimal but stable, the analyst reported. Neural activity extremely low.
The human nodded slowly, paused. Suddenly, the image flickered again. Lines appeared across the screen. Faint glowing threads forming a web-like pattern. There, he said quietly. The field. The web expanded slowly, spreading through the corridor. Like invisible rain.
The technician's voice shook slightly. Signal degradation increasing. Pull back, Commander Ellis ordered.
The drone turned. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screen distorted violently. The feed cut to static. Gasps echoed through the room.
Signal lost, the technician said.
The human closed his eyes briefly. The field reached it. The Queen stood still, absorbing the truth. This was no rumor, no exaggerated warning. The threat was real, and it had reached her borders. She turned to the room.
We now have proof. Some officers looked pale. Others immediately began discussing defensive plans.
One strategist spoke sharply. We must mobilize the fleet and evacuate nearby colonies. Evacuation could spread panic. Trade routes would collapse. The room filled with arguments. The Queen raised her hand. Silence returned instantly.
We will prepare defenses quietly, she said, and we will study this enemy before revealing everything.
What comes next?
He looked at the dark map again.
They will move again soon, he said.
The field spreads in stages. First, silence.
Then control. Then expansion. Commander Ellis crossed her arms. If they already control the station, why not attack us immediately? Because they are cautious, he replied. They observe first. They learn how we react. The Queen's eyes sharpened. Then we must give them something unexpected. He nodded.
Yes!
The room grew quiet again as everyone waited for him to continue. We send a small task force, he said. Not a fleet. A team built differently. Mixed technology. Unpredictable patterns. An officer frowned.
That sounds risky.
It is, he admitted, but a large fleet would be detected instantly.
You want to go yourself? It was not a question. He met her gaze. Yes, she exhaled slowly. She had expected that answer, but hearing it still stirred something inside her. Worry she could not show openly. You just returned, she said quietly.
I returned because the threat reached you.
he replied. The words carried more meaning than he intended, and for a moment, neither of them looked away. Commander Illis interrupted gently. If he goes, he will need support. The Queen nodded.
Select volunteers only, those who understand the risk.
Several officers exchanged love.
No one wanted to admit fear, but everyone understood that this mission could end in silence. The human activated his device again, showing diagrams of human-built systems. These, he said, are older human technologies. Less efficient, but more resistant to external control. An engineer leaned closer.
They look chaotic. They are, he said.
And chaos makes them harder to predict.
The Queen watched as her officers began working with him, combining alien precision with human unpredictability. For the first time since he arrived, she saw him fully engaged, guiding without dominating, listening carefully, adapting quickly.
He had always been like this. Not a ruler, not a general, but something between. Outside, the summit continued, unaware of the storm building beneath the palace. Inside the war room, a small strike team began to form. As preparations finished, the Queen stepped aside with the human.
"You plan to leave again?" she said softly.
Whoa.
Yes. Her eyes held a quiet sadness she tried to hide. And vanish once more. He hesitated.
I do not know, he admitted.
She nodded slowly. Then she surprised him by stepping closer.
I will not stop you, she said. But this time you will not go alone. He looked at her carefully. You cannot risk yourself. Boo! I will remain here, but my best people will go with you.
He accepted that with a small nod. The Queen's voice lowered.
And you will return.
It sounded less like an order and more like a hope. He did not promise, but he did not refuse. Soon after, the strike team gathered at a hidden docking bay. A sleek ship waited, its design unusual, part Imperial technology, part human engineering. Its systems were less elegant than royal vessels, but far more flexible. Commander Illis approached him.
Ready?
He looked at the ship, then at the Queen standing at a distance, watching silently.
Yes, he said.
As the team boarded, the Queen felt something tighten in her chest. She had waited years without knowing if he lived. Now he was leaving again. But this time, she understood why. The ship launched smoothly into space. Inside, the human sat in the pilot's chair, hands steady. The mission had begun. And somewhere in the darkness ahead, the ancient force waited, observing, learning. Unaware that humanity's unpredictable nature might be the one thing it could not control. The stars stretched into lines as the ship entered faster travel. Behind them, the Queen whispered softly to the empty docking bay, "Come back." Far away, the silent station floated in darkness, surrounded by an invisible web, and deep within that web, something began to notice the approaching ship. The strike ship moved through the darkness of space like a quiet shadow. Its engines produced a soft vibration that could barely be felt inside the cabin. The crew sat at their stations, watching their screens carefully. Outside the wide forward window, stars stretched into thin lines as the ship traveled faster than normal light speed. The human sat in the pilot's chair, calm and focused. His hands rested lightly on the controls while his eyes studied the navigation map. Commander Illis stood behind him, observing quietly. She had worked with many pilots before, but the way he handled the ship was different.
He did not rush.
They allowed the systems to breathe, adjusting gently instead of forcing movement. "We will reach the silent zone in 6 minutes," she said. He nodded once. The rest of the team prepared equipment. Engineers adjusted hybrid devices combining Imperial technology with older human systems. These systems looked rough compared to advanced alien designs. but the human had insisted on them. They are imperfect, he had said earlier, and that makes them difficult for the enemy to control. The memory of the frozen station remained heavy in everyone's minds. As the ship slowed, the stars returned to normal points of light. The silent outpost appeared ahead, floating near a pale blue star. From a distance, it looked peaceful, almost abandoned.
"Entering sensor range," an officer reported. The human leaned forward.
"Watch for energy fluctuations." Moments later, faint waves appeared on the screen, the same ripples seen in the drone footage. "There," he said quietly. "The field is active."
Commander Ellis crossed her arms. Can we approach without being detected?
"Probably not,"
He replied.
"but we can confuse it." He adjusted a control. The ship's energy signature shifted unpredictably, fluctuating between patterns. One of the engineers frowned. "That will reduce efficiency." "Yes," he said calmly. "Efficiency is predictable. We need to be unpredictable." The ship moved closer. Inside the palace, far away, the Queen stood in the war room, watching the live feed. She had chosen to observe alone for a moment. Seeing the human on the screen stirred old memories and new worries at the same time. "Stay safe," she whispered, though he could not hear. Back near the station, the strike ship slowed to a careful drift.
External scans confirm multiple frozen life forms, the analyst reported. The human nodded.
"Prepare boarding team."
Commander Illis gave orders quickly. A small group assembled near the airlock, wearing protective suits equipped with mixed technology.
"You are leading?" she asked him. "Yes."
"You always move toward danger."
He gave a small smile, only when necessary. The airlock opened and the team crossed into the silent station.
The corridor looked exactly as seen in the drone footage. Crew members stood frozen mid-motion, eyes open but empty. The air felt heavy, almost thick. One officer whispered, "It feels wrong." The human nodded slightly. "Stay close." He activated a handheld scanner. Thin lines appeared in the air, faint patterns forming a network of energy threads. "The field," he said. "It's everywhere." They moved deeper inside. Suddenly, a low hum filled the corridor. The lights dimmed. The human froze. "It noticed us," he said quietly. Energy threads brightened, forming a web around them. Commander Alice raised her weapon instinctively. "Wait," he said. "Weapons won't help." "What will?" she asked. He activated a small device from his belt. The device emitted irregular pulses, chaotic signals, unlike anything the station had seen before. The web flickered. "It's trying to analyze us," he explained. Human systems do not follow one pattern. It slows its response. The team moved carefully toward the central control room. As they entered, the hum grew louder. A floating sphere of faint light appeared at the center. Not solid, not alive, but clearly active.
"What is that?"
An officer whispered.
"The control node,"
the human said.
"A part of the network controlling the field."
The sphere shifted slightly, reacting to their presence. The human stepped forward slowly. Commander Illis grabbed his arm. "Too close!" He shook his head gently. "I need to understand it." The sphere emitted pulses that made the lights flicker. The web around the room tightened. The human felt pressure in his mind. Not pain, but observation. As if something was trying to read him. He breathed slowly, focusing. Then he understood. "It's not attacking," he said quietly. "It's learning." Commander Illis frowned. "Learning what?" "How we think." The sphere pulsed again, stronger. The human activated another device, an old human interface unit. Unlike smooth alien systems, this one required manual input. He began typing random commands, switching patterns rapidly. The sphere hesitated. The web flickered again.
"It cannot predict human randomness," he said.
"Can we shut it down?" she asked.
"Yes," he replied, "but not by force." He approached the main console.
Using a combination of imperial codes and human improvisation, he began feeding conflicting signals into the node. The sphere reacted violently, pulses becoming unstable. Outside, the strike ship reported energy surges. Inside the palace, the queen leaned forward, watching anxiously. "What is he doing? What is he doing?" One advisor asked, plays, being human. Back at the station, the energy web began collapsing. Frozen crew members twitched slightly. "Life signs increasing," an officer reported. The human continued working, ignoring the rising heat from the unstable node. Commander Illis spoke urgently.
"We need to leave soon. Almost done," he said.
The sphere's light flickered wildly, then dimmed.
The hum stopped. Silence filled the room. One frozen crew member fell forward, breathing suddenly.
"It worked," the officer whispered.
But the human's expression remained serious. "This was only one node," he said.
"There are more."
Commander Illis nodded. "But now we know how to fight it." They returned to the ship with rescued survivors. As the strike ship moved away, the station's lights slowly returned to normal. Inside the war room, relief spread through the Queen's council. The Queen allowed herself a small smile. He had done it again. Back on the ship, the human sat quietly while the crew celebrated softly.
Commander Illis approached him.
"You saved them,"
she said. He shook his head.
"We delayed the enemy, that's all."
She studied him. "You never take credit." He looked at the stars outside. "Survival is enough." The ship returned to the palace hours later. As the airlock opened, the Queen stood waiting. Their eyes met immediately. For a moment, the busy hangar disappeared. "You came back?" she said softly.
"I said I would help," he replied. She stepped closer, relief clear despite her calm expression.
"You gave us hope." He shook his head gently. "Humanity gave you unpredictability. That is what saved them." "Then perhaps humanity is exactly what the galaxy needs." The council gathered soon after, and plans formed quickly. With proof and a working strategy, the Empire prepared to resist the ancient network.
As days passed, more nodes were discovered and disabled. The spreading silence slowed.
Peace was not guaranteed, but the galaxy now had a chance. Later, standing alone on a balcony, the Queen joined the human as he watched the stars.
"Will you leave again?" she asked quietly. He hesitated.
"I don't know," he admitted. She nodded, accepting the uncertainty. "This time," she said, "you are not hidden." He looked at her. "And maybe," she added softly, "you do not need to be." The stars reflected in their eyes as the future opened before them, uncertain but alive. And somewhere far away, the ancient network adjusted its calculations, learning from its first failure, unaware that the human spirit it faced was endlessly creative, endlessly resilient, and impossible to fully predict. The story of survival had only just begun, but for now, humanity had reminded the galaxy of one simple truth. Even against ancient forces, a single unpredictable mind could change everything.